So excited to have you guys here. I'm Dr. Sharon Grossman, the Burnout Doc, and this is Supercharge Your EQ with AI for resilient success, specifically tailored to event organizers, because I know you guys, you deal with a lot of stress and mostly you're focusing on your attendees. But I thought, what about you guys? So this is what we're going to be doing today. And so let's just jump right in. I've got a story that I want to start with, and this literally just happened over the weekend. So I have a 10-year-old son, and he had flushed the toilet and noticed that the toilet bowl wasn't filling up with water. So what does he do? He takes the lid off and he's trying to play plumber, and he puts the lid right on the toilet seat as he's working his way through this, trying to figure this out. And oops, accidentally, that lid fell on the ground and broke into a million pieces. So I come home and he's like, listen, I'm so sorry. Something terrible happened. And he takes me by the hand to the bathroom. He brings me in, and there's pieces that he had collected and put them back together, kind of like a puzzle, thinking that we're going to be able to just glue this together and we'll be all good to go. Well, then we're in the car, we're driving to Trader Joe's. And so I have an opportunity to really chat with him about it. And he says, I'm surprised that you weren't angry with me. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. So the toilet lid is broken, right? What do I need to do? And he said, you need to replace it, clearly. And I said, well, would I need to replace it if I'm happy? And he said, yeah. And I said, and would I need to replace it if I'm angry? And he said, yes. And I said, so I have to replace it either way, right? He said, yeah. So I said to him, the idea is, if I got to replace it either way, what is being angry going to help the situation, right? It's really not going to do much. And he said, well, if I had a son and he broke the toilet top, the lid, I would be angry at him. And I said, well, if you're angry, then it means that there's some sort of a thought that is getting you angry. So what is it that you would be thinking about your son that broke the lid? What would go through your mind? And he said that he's an idiot and that he should have been more careful. And I said, okay, but what if your son said, I am so sorry, and you saw how he took the time to put all the pieces together, because really what he wanted is to be able to glue them back together and fix the problem? What if you saw that? Then what would go through your mind? And how would you feel? And he said, I can't really find the words for it. So I said, well, would you feel compassion? And he said, I would feel love for my son. And I said, okay, right. So here was this lesson about the choices that we have to make every single day. And so you might wonder, why am I talking to you about toilets and 10-year-old boys? Well, this is essentially what we're talking about today. It's really about emotional intelligence. So I know you've definitely heard the term emotional intelligence before, but what is it really? So if you have a sense of what emotional intelligence is, put it in the chat, because I want to get a sense of, what do you already know? And if you don't know, that's okay too. But I want to see, what is your understanding of emotional intelligence? I'm going to just open up the chat and just throw the first thing that comes to mind in there. Let's see. What do you guys know? I mean, think about the words emotional intelligence. You're here for a reason, right? You came to this webinar. It's about EQ. What is EQ, right? I'm not saying anybody put anything in the chat. Come on, guys. I know you know something about it. So what is emotional intelligence? What is it about? Heat-based. What does that mean, Chris? Or did you mean heart-based? What? Heart-based. Okay. Your ability to understand your and others' emotions. Robbie, that's very good. Yeah, those things, you guys are on the right track. So essentially what emotional intelligence is, it's that connection between our thoughts and our feelings. And when you understand yourself, you have that self-awareness, which is a key component of emotional intelligence. You're then able to manage your own emotions. And when you understand what other people are thinking, that's called social intelligence. Then you're able to have empathy. You're able to put yourself in their shoes. And if you're able to manage yourself and understand other people, you'll be able to manage your relationships with other people. So this is really a very important topic. And they've said that this is more important than IQ in the workplace. So certainly if you've ever worked with anyone, you know that the relationships that you have with people in the workplace is very important, not just because of the experience that you have, but also it basically translates into the success that you have. So that's why it's really important. Okay. So now, in addition to everything I just said, here's something for you to contend with. This comes from the world of positive psychology. And so what we know is that the external world predicts just 10% of your long-term happiness. And yet we are so focused on everything that goes on outside of us that we sometimes find ourselves quite unhappy, right? Now we know why. And as event organizers, you've got a lot of stressors that you got to contend with. You've got burnout, you've got employee turnover, staffing issues, vendors, speakers, budgets, and there's probably 100 other things that aren't on this slide. So certainly, you know that there are a lot of things that you have to deal with every single day that creates stress in your life. And those are all external things. And the other thing we know, so we said 10% of happiness comes from external. What that means is that 90% of your long-term happiness is actually predicted by what's going on inside of you, and specifically how your brain is processing all those external events that are happening. So this translates into the story that you tell yourself, the thoughts that you're having every single day. And these are some of the thoughts that you might be thinking when you're stressed out as an event organizer, like, this event will be a disaster. No one appreciates my efforts. I can't handle the pressure. I'm in over my head, et cetera, right? So pretty sure this probably rings a bell for you guys. So the question is, how can EQ help? And I've just narrowed it down today for these three things. And the first one is it helps you reframe some of those limiting beliefs. Now, I'm going to just give you a heads up that we are going to really dive in very quickly into those limiting beliefs. So you're going to have to identify one thing that you want to work on today. So I just want to say that. And then it's also about cultivating empathy, because as we said, when you understand what other people are thinking, it helps you to have more empathy for them, kind of like with my son, and enhance those communication skills. So we're going to see how this all comes together. Now, I also want to tell you that if this is not natural for you, right, because EQ is a skill, it's something that you probably get better with the more you practice it and the more you're trained in it. Don't worry, because this is where the AI is going to come in. So I'm going to show you today how you can really boost that EQ, especially in situations where you're stressed and you can't think straight. You can't really get yourself out of stress mode, how we can utilize AI to help us do that. So stick around to the end, because I got some stuff for you that you're going to love. Specifically, I've come up with these prompts that you can use within AI to be the kind of therapist that you want it to be, because you know what? We each need something different, and you might need something different at different times throughout your day. In addition, well, anyway, I'm going to also come back to the toilet story, because I'm going to share with you, I already shared with you what I told my son. I'm going to share with you what AI came up with for that same scenario. All right. So again, this presentation is about that intersection between EQ and AI. And this is, I think, what makes it so unique and hopefully something that you can utilize in your day-to-day. So the first framework that we're going to look at is how AI can help us with our EQ when it comes to limiting beliefs, right? How it can help us reframe all the things that are negative. So remember, I told you you're going to need a limiting belief to work on. So you don't have to share what that is, but what I want you to do is write it down for yourself. So when you think about your role as an event organizer, what is one limiting belief you might have? Now, I know that I've spoken to a number of event organizers. One of the more common things I see is there's a lot of imposter syndrome. So that's a limiting belief. There's a lot of other ones. So pick something that you want to work with. Okay. And hopefully everyone's got something written down at this point. And here's an example. Like, everyone else knows more than I do. So imagine if you think that, if you really believe that about yourself and everybody else, how that's going to create a lot of stress in your role every single day. And so now what we want to do is we want to reframe that limiting belief. So I want to just challenge you to come up with something, anything, like if your friend or colleague had that limiting belief and they said to you, this is what I think, and this is why I feel so like that lack of confidence or stressed out or whatever, what would you tell them? Put your reframe in the chat. So in the chat, all I want to see is, I don't want to see the original belief because that's your personal business and we're not here to do a therapy session, but I do want to see what positive reframes you were able to come up with. So go ahead and put that in. And if you're kind of stuck and you're wondering, well, I'm not sure what it is, you can also DM me and we'll actually use this opportunity to throw it into chat and kind of see what it comes up with. So I'm going to check the chat right now. Oops, got a fly right here. And yeah, I want to see at least 3 reframes in the chat. So what did you guys come up with? And if you're stuck, just say I'm stuck. Like, I just want to see that people are getting this, right? That you are with me because I can't see you. So we've got Robbie who says, our event will be appreciated by someone out there, so this endeavor is worthwhile. That's fantastic. Yes. So essentially what you're saying is, maybe sometimes you do all this hard work and you wonder, like, is anyone going to care? Is anyone going to care that I am killing myself here to make this the best event ever? And yes. Okay. So Jessica says, where do I put my thought? So we're not asking you to put your negative thought into the chat per se, but what I want you to do is reframe it and put that thought right here into the chat. Michael says, you have done this many times before and it has always been appreciated. I love that. Yes, Michael, sometimes we need to remind ourselves that even though maybe we lack that confidence in this moment, if we can think back to our past, we can remind ourselves that, you know, we got this. We're pros. We've done this so many times. You know what you're doing. Don't worry about it. It's all going to work out. Yeah, love it. And one more. We got, you have a lifetime of experience. Share it. People will be interested. And I love that too. Thank you so much for sharing that. So guys, we got our 3 and I have to move on, but you guys get the idea. You can absolutely reframe these. And as we'll see, you can also use AI if you're stuck to help you reframe it for you. Okay, so here's an example that I want to use with you guys, which is very similar to what you shared. I bring my own set of skills and experience to the table, right? So maybe you do it differently from other people. Maybe they have their own way, but so do you. So that's how we're reframing, and we can use AI to do that. And by the way, that reframe that I just had on the screen is something that AI came up with. So I just gave it this scenario, like, let's say I'm an event organizer and this is the thought that's going through my head. This is what it came up with. Secondly, now we're going to move on. So now we're not just focused on our own negative thoughts about ourselves, but also about all these other people around us that are stressing us out. How can we deal with those people? And that is by cultivating some empathy. So a thought you might have, especially if you're working with a team, is they are not pulling their weight. And when you have that thought, how are you going to feel? Put it in the chat. Guys, if you have a thought, and I know that you've had this thought in the past, how are you going to feel with that thought in your brain? They are not pulling their weight. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that thought? Frustrated. Yes. Resentment. Yes. Absolutely. How can I plug that gap? So I love, Will, that you had that question. That is not a feeling. However, it tells me you're the kind of person that's really proactive and you're thinking about how to take charge of the situation. So fantastic. But there's also the risk of always being in perpetual motion and not really connecting with your own emotions. So just pay attention to that if that's a pattern. Yes? Yes. Fantastic. Okay, good. So getting back here, I put this into chat again, and here's how AI can help, right? So AI says, I understand that being an event organizer can be incredibly stressful, and it's natural to feel frustrated when you perceive that others may not be putting in the same effort. So remember, like, you can use this to your advantage, but it doesn't stop there. Then it helps you empathize with other people. So it says, it continues, it says it's essential to remember that everyone has their own responsibilities and challenges. Sometimes it might seem like others aren't pulling their weight, but there could be reasons beyond what we can see on the surface. People may have personal issues or unexpected obstacles that we may not be aware of, which, when you hear that, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, yeah, that's true. I can relate to that. Yeah. And maybe you're less frustrated with the person, or you turn that frustration into curiosity, which will then afford you the opportunity to show up in a different way with them, right? And then AI doesn't stop there. Then it gives you some strategies, and it says, well, instead of assuming the worst, consider, and here's, Will, to your point about what you can do, opening up communication with your team. Another thing it's suggested is provide clear expectations and delegate tasks based on each person's strengths, right? So these are strategies of how to handle the stressful situation. And so this is kind of like where you might end up after you have more empathy. Again, all from AI. And so it says, it seems like they might need some support or clarification with their tasks, right? So imagine if you're approaching it from that perspective, how different that might be. And finally, we're going to look at how AI can help enhance communication skills, because ultimately you're not working in silos. You have other people that are around you. It's great to have empathy for them and to have that curiosity. And now it's like, so now what do I do about it? Right? So now it's about the communication. So imagine you have this idea. They never understand the pressure that I'm under, and they just keep adding more tasks to my plate. So you can see this woman is just frustrated. She's stressed. She's overwhelmed. There's a lot of emotions going on with this thought. And so AI comes in and it gives us strategies. Strategy number one, it says, consider having an open and honest conversation with them about your workload and the challenges that you're facing. Choose a suitable time to talk and then express your feelings using I statements to avoid sounding accusatory. So let me give you an example. You might say, I feel overwhelmed with the current workload and I appreciate some understanding and support in managing it. Okay. So notice the I statement in this, you're owning it. You're talking about how this is stressing you out. It's not like you're giving me too much stuff. You're making my life hell. No, you're talking about it from your perspective. And when you do that, it lowers people's defenses. They are more open to hearing what you have to say. And as you already know, we have multiple strategies. So that's just one. Number two, when discussing your workload, focus on specific tasks and deadlines. You can suggest prioritizing tasks together and finding ways to delegate or redistribute responsibilities to create a more manageable workload for everyone involved. So this is very similar to something that I might tell my coaching clients, which is you've got a lot of things going on, and maybe your boss comes to you and says, you've got this thing that I'm now giving you, and I need it done like yesterday. So now you're feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling stressed out. What do? Well, you can say to your boss, look at all the things that I have, and you tell me which one you want me to work on first, because obviously can't do them all at the same time, right? So these are very common strategies. And strategy number three, keep the conversation solution oriented. So Will, this is all about you, okay? Instead of dwelling on the challenges, explore potential solutions together. Encourage them to share their ideas and be open to compromise. So this is where your listening skills really come in, because it's not just about you having to have all the answers. No, it's about that communication, is that back and forth, okay? So an example, I need to communicate how I feel so I get my needs met. Okay, guys, are you ready for the best part? This is where I'm going to give you something that you can use over and over again way after this presentation is over. And that is, yes, you can use ChatGPT as is. But what if you had the exact prompt to make ChatGPT the kind of therapist that you want it to be? The kind of person who maybe you just want support. You don't want all these strategies. Stop telling me all the things I could do. Like, I just want you to get it. Like, I just want that. Oh, this sucks. I totally get it. Like, I understand how difficult this must be, right? Maybe you just want that sometimes. And other times you're like, I'm really stuck in my head. I've got this negative thought. I can't get to the other side of this. help me reframe this. Help me see it from another angle. Sometimes you just want that. And other times you're trying to communicate with somebody. You're like, I don't know how to tell them this. I don't know how to get my message across. What if you had the exact prompts that you can give ChatGPT to help you get the exact thing that you need at the exact moment? And that's exactly what I've prepared for you guys. So what I want you to do is grab your phones and scan this QR code, or if you are on your phone and you can't scan it, go to talk.ac/the burnout doc. And this will open up a window where you put in the code prompts, and it's going to ask you a few questions. And this is going to be really important for me because this is giving me feedback on the things that you really liked about this presentation, so I can do more of those things, and the things that you didn't like that maybe can be improved on, because I'm on this mission to share this message about how to manage your stress, how to avoid burnout with as many people as possible. So I'm doing this in this creative new way, something that I haven't really done before for you guys as event organizers. But I do these kinds of things for people in different professions so that they can get through their day, right? That they can provide the kind of services that they want. So I would love your feedback on this. And don't run away, because after this, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to fill this out super quick. After this, and by the way, as a thank you for doing so, you will get those prompts at the end. And then I'm going to follow up with you with some other amazing resources that I've created just for event organizers, because as I said in the beginning, you guys have your own set of stressors. And while you're taking care of everybody else, I want to take care of you. So go ahead and do that. And then I've got what ChatGPT gave me to deal with my son's exact issue, or that story about the toilet. So I want you to just see how you can use this as a tool to help you as well. So let me talk to you about what ChatGPT actually came up with for my son. So this is, I put the story into ChatGPT, and this is what it said. Hey, buddy, first of all, thank you for coming to me and being honest about what happened. Accidents happen. It's important to remember that things can be replaced, but trust and honesty are invaluable. In the future, if something goes wrong and you're not sure about how to fix it, just let me know and we can work on it together. I'm not angry with you. Let's just figure out how to get it fixed, okay? Now, I thought this is such a great response because it really captures everything that I would want to say to my son, right? I want to tell him that I'm not angry. I want to tell him that I'm appreciative of him coming forward. I want to talk about how to do it next time. What is the lesson in this? Because can you imagine if every time we had the same thing happen over and over again? No, it's like I want him to walk away learning something from the experience. So it really encapsulates it like very nicely. And so I really want to encourage you guys to use chat for all the reasons that we mentioned today. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time for being here with me today to help yourself learn how to manage stress better, because as we know, it's all the time and it's everywhere, but it's how you manage yourself that really makes the big difference in terms of your happiness, in terms of you being able to continue in your role. So, by the way, I would love to have an opportunity to chat with any and all of you one-on-one, especially if my topic of stress and burnout is something that would help your event and your attendees. And so I've got a link in the bottom here, which is drsharongrossman.com/book me. So this will just this is an opportunity for you to get on my calendar and we can have a conversation about what your event is about and how I can serve. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for taking the time out for yourselves, because that's what is going to be needed in order for you to avoid burnout yourselves. So again, I love doing this for you guys, and I'm going to see if I can come up with something else for next month, and I invite you to come back again and again. Bye for now.